everybody. It's Ryan here, your physician friend. Hope you and your family are well. God bless you and thanks for joining me. This is our 104th offering in practical internal medicine. We're talking about liver enzymes, elevated liver enzymes. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, hope that you will consider it. Here's our quote for the day, everybody. I'm quoting Tracy L. McNair, who said, and I quote, accept the past for what it is, acknowledge the present for what it is, anticipate the future for what it can become. Okay, and the other take on this is forget the past, it's over. Forget the future, you can't do anything about it. And forget the present because I didn't get you one. That's for birthday joke. Okay, and another dad joke. Guess who I bumped into on my way to get my glasses fixed up? Everybody. Guys, elevated liver enzymes, I'm sure we are familiar with the liver function panel. You get your total protein, you get your bilirubin conjugated and unconjugated fraction. Then you get your transaminases being your alanine aminotransferase and aspartate aminotransferase, your ALT, AST. Then you get your alkaline phosphatase and your gamma glutamate transferase, alk-phos gamma GT. The first stratification point, the first branch point is it hepatocellular or is it cholestatic? By this we mean if your transaminases are higher in comparison to your alk-phos, it's what we call hepatocellular. But if your alkaline phosphatase is higher than your transaminases, we're thinking about a cholestatic picture. So hepatocellular, we further stratify on the degree of elevation. If it's more than 15 times upper limit of normal, we call that severe. Now, only a couple of things can cause this. Sometimes we see ALTs into the thousands. A couple of things can cause it. Number one, acute hepatitis B. Number two, paracetamol poisoning. Number three, Amanita phloides mushrooms poisoning. Number four is ischemic liver injury, so-called shock liver. Okay, so viral in the way of hepatitis B, drugs and toxins, ischemia to the liver, autoimmune. What are the autoimmune markers? Anti-nuclear factor is going to be positive. Anti-smooth muscle antibody is going to be positive. Anti-liver kidney microsomal antibody positive. Wilson's the condition where there's copper overload. So you know that your serum ceruloplasmin is going to be low. And your urinary 24-hour urinary copper is going to be high, and a lot of copper gets deposited in the liver, which can predispose to cirrhosis. It also presents with hemolysis and causes basal nuclei problems as well. Pregnancy, the two things that can cause a bump in your transaminases is your acute fatty liver pregnancy and, of course, HELP syndrome, which complicates eclampsia or preeclampsia. Hemolysis, elevated liver enzymes, and low platelets. But if your ALT is in the mid-range between 5 to 15 times upper limit of normal, we call that moderate elevation. Once again, not much of the same culprits, viruses, drugs, autoimmune, Wilson's, hemochromatosis, where there's iron deposition in multiple organs. In the liver, it causes cirrhosis, but you can have it depositing in the heart, causing dilated cardiomyopathy. You can have it causing infertility. You can have it causing so-called bronze diabetes. Okay, things like that. Wilson's, okay, as well, non-alcoholic fatty liver, often complicating diabetes. Then you've got a mild bump in your transaminases, much the same as well, of the much the same headings as we discussed already. Now, if you've got a cholestatic picture with your alkaline phosphatase being elevated out of proportion to the transaminases, then you're thinking, okay, maybe there's a surgical cause of jaundice. You want to do an ultrasound scan. If you see big old dilated bile ducts, you know it's a surgical problem. Stones, worms, tumor. Stones, worms, tumor. Stones, worms, and tumor. Okay, so common bile duct stone. Okay, choledocholithiasis, biliary stricture, primary sclerosing cholangitis, PSC, worms and flukes, not fluking you on that one. Cholangiocarcinoma, which is a bile duct tumor, pancreatic cancer, especially cancer of the head of pancreas. But if you've got a cholestatic picture and you have normal bile ducts on the ultrasound, then it's not surgical jaundice. It's medical jaundice. Right? We call it the primary biliary cholangitis, previously called primary biliary cirrhosis. That one's associated with a positive antimitochondrial antibody being positive. Primary sclerosing cholangitis as well. Alcoholic hepatitis, blame it on the alcohol. Drugs, TPN can do it, sepsis can do it. Infiltrative issues, sarcoidosis, amyloidosis, malignancy, infection, any cause of cirrhosis, and congenital issues, thinking about in the pediatric population, biliary atresia, Alagille syndrome, and the progressive familial intracholestasis. Uh, Alrighty, there's also something called BRIC, benign recurrent intrahepatic cholestasis as well. Okay, guys, couple of points here. Diagnose acute liver failure if you have synthetic dysfunction with a raised INR and with evidence of hepatic encephalopathy. Okay, Alcoholic hepatitis is usually cholestatic, but usually your ALT is below 300. That is a big tip off. Other issues with the alcohol is it causes the isolated increase in your gamma GT, and your AST is usually higher than your ALT, usually at a ratio of 2 is to 1 or more. NAFLD is increasing in prevalence, probably more than 10% of the population. It happens in the setting of diabetes and even pre-diabetes. Okay, and ERCP you want to use in the context of a cholestatic picture with normal bile ducts, or even if you're suspecting that there is a bile duct stone that you want to disimpact and remove. Okay, and PSC, you probably want to diagnose this by MRCP or MRI. Okay, so guys, we said elevated liver enzymes. Is it hepatocellular or cholestatic? If it's hepatocellular, you stratify your approach based on the degree of elevation of ALT compared to the upper limit of normal. And if it's cholestatic, your next part of ultrasound are they dilated bile ducts or not? Okay, my friends, let's look at the life of Lazarus, right? Now, we know that Lazarus was part of the family that Jesus loved. He loved Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. They were all siblings. And in the book of John, chapter 11, verse 6 to 7, it says, when Jesus heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. And then he said to the disciples, let's go back to Judea. So imagine if somebody tells you that somebody that you love is sick. Won't you want to leave whatever you're doing and go and visit that person immediately? But not so. Jesus waited 2 more days and then departed from where he was, right? And there's a reason for that because as long as Lazarus was sick, he was still a little bit strong. Now, in our previous video, we looked at an example of a gentleman on a ventilator who's completely weak, because come completely to an end of himself, right? And that is how we are when God uses us. We need to come to an end of ourselves. See, only when Lazarus had died could God manifest his power in raising him up. And we all know the narrative from the book of John. So we have to come to an end of ourselves. We have to be weak completely, and then only can God strengthen us with the power of His Holy Spirit. And I pray this will be true for us even as we seek the Lord more and more. God bless you. Here are my references, everybody. I'll see you soon with another practical approach. Much love.